Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel for another video on Marvel Contest of Champions. As you know by now, the Submariner, Namor, as well as Invisible Woman are going to be in next month's event. The imagery for these two champions was released yesterday and it's got a lot of people excited and buzzed about next month's event. Kabam have given me a brief bio of both characters to then do an early look and also have a look at speculation against what they've put in, against say comic book history and other things included. One thing I really want to start off and talk about is the design of the characters, because when I saw these, they kind of reminded me of some other characters. Yeah, it seems to me that somebody in the Kabam office must be a massive fan of Star Trek, because that looks like Spock, Submariner looks like Spock, and well, Invisible Woman looks a lot like in all seriousness, I'm kind of done with having any kind of criticisms about the way that champions look, unless they look completely ridiculous from whatever source material, and they don't look too ridiculous from source material, so I'm pretty cool about it. I like the look of the Submariner and I like the look of Invisible Woman. They're still pretty cool. For some of you, you may not get the link between why Namo the Submariner and Invisible Woman have this kind of link. It all goes back to when she was Invisible Girl from the very kind of start point of Fantastic Four being put into comic books. And the whole kind of thing was, prior to meeting Reed Richards, she had a bit of a fling, a bit of a thing with the Submariner. It's always been the very first, labelled the very first love triangle in the Marvel universe between Reed Richards, Invisible Woman and Namor. And I don't know how Kabam intend to touch on this not difficult subject, but kind of uncomfortable a little bit. And they do say that the kind of lust is there for Namor, but the heart will always be there for Reed Richards. Will this be some kind of like ongoing thing? Will this be like a rivalry type synergy we could see in the future? I don't know, but I'm quite excited to see how this story comes together between these two characters. Let's now move on to the early look of the abilities. Let's begin with Invisible Woman, compare against what we've got here, and then go over to the source material and see if anything transpires and everything looks correct. So Invisible Woman has a mix of offense and defense mechanics. She has a force field which takes damage on her behalf, and she's able to turn invisible, which causes all incoming attacks to miss. Similar to Ghost, similar to Hood, similar mechanic we've seen before. When attacking, she benefits from dodging the opponent's attacks and deals bonus damage for every debuff on them. That is pretty cool. Invisible Woman starts her fight with a force field and increases her physical and energy damage resistance when taking damage from any attack other than SP3. The force field takes a good portion of damage instead of her. Amazing defensive mechanics seem to be there. Invisible Woman also possesses the ability to go invisible for extended periods of time. While invisible, Invisible Woman can avoid incoming attacks and she gains a significant bonus to her crit rating. That is pretty cool. It's like hopefully on the same power level or damage output level as Ghost, but it's yet to be seen. So from that information, compare it off with what is down as information that the character should get. It seems very much the same, which is good. It's nice to see that level of detail. I'm not sure if it's going to be so much of an extensive offensive based character with aspects of Ghost where you're building up things with crit rating or trying to hit in like cruelty. We still don't know if that is the case. It's going to be exactly the same or near the same. But also the character seems to have some sort of comparisons to a character like Emma Frost. I'm kind of going into different type of stances, gaining positive based effects, but also the level of reducing down damage coming in with energy resistance going up as well as physical resistance. And will those be passive based buffs or proper buffs? If they're proper buffs, I can see a character that deals with buffs like we've known in the past with Ronan, constantly putting in those stuns could be a decent counter. But if that's the case, these are passive based effects, then it may be best to use a character against us like Omega Red, which would have that ability of being close, not having to hit in quite so much, but also putting in those death spores and really kind of like damaging out the character. Either way, I'm excited to see what is going to happen in the next couple of weeks when the character gets entered into the game. Will she be the now queen of Alliance Wars defense? Now onto the character that's got a lot of buzz about him, and that is Namor. Namor is a highly offensive attacker. He passively generates stacks of outrage over time, and whenever he fails to apply a debuff onto his enemy, once his outrage gets to its threshold, he enters Imperious Rex and is able to activate multiple special attacks back to back. I mean, that doesn't really sound good for opponents, but definitely sounds good if you're the attacker. Namo's outrage stacks are the true source of his strength. He can use them to generate power, keep his power after activating special attacks, and increase the strength of his special attacks, activating multiple super-powered special attacks in a row, devastating his opponent. Jesus Christ. His special attacks can cause bleeds and stuns, and when activating his special 3, Namo unleashes the full power of Neptune's trident, summoning an ocean in places where oceans do not belong. So in a nutshell, it sounds epic, but let's deep dive a lot of this. There may be some of you asking what Imperious Rex is, and from the information I gathered, it maybe seems like either a battle cry or something that is kind of like quite arrogant, because I've seen a lot of information, comic book history and stuff, where they've referred to the character as being very kind of kingly and arrogant. So imagine the same way that Stan Lee says Excelsior, the same thing applies with this. Imperious Rex, and like a battle cry, by Odin's beard, you know, smut, whatever. But sticking it back to these details, I think what Kabam are trying to say is that a champion may have some aspect of power flood meets strike back, in that the champion is able to gain power exponentially, like something that we may have not seen before. And yeah, there is characters like, I think Symbiote Supreme's got something that's kind of built into his mechanics, but it could be a little bit different, and especially entering into some kind of savagery based mode, you could see just like constant spam, especially with stuns. Imagine that, it's like stun, you then hit him with a special, stun, hit him with a special, stun. Similar kind of premise to Ronan when you're trying to do it against champions that got buffs and reapplying that stun, special stun, special stun. It could be similar to that. This then swiftly leads me on to talk about Neptune's trident. So as you know, the trident has powers to it. What kind of powers? Well, it could be mystical. It depends where Kabam decides to class his character, and I will put a link in the description below to something that Frojo34 has been looking at, some history of the character, and whether or not the classing should be either one of many things. For a lot of players, they'll go, that's a mutant-based character. Yes, in theory it could be, but there is the other aspect that mystical powers from Neptune's trident could point the character towards more of a mystic-based presence. But like I said, for a lot of players, they'll go, it's got to be mutant. But if it's only going to be on the SP3, then it may not be overly needed. It may not have any mystical presence to it, and would probably be there for show, which could mean that it would be more of a mutant-based character. Just diverting away from the ability side of things, I've got this strong feeling the character is going to fly. Why? Well, I looked in some of the comic book history and it talks about the ability to fly, and they're talking about these kind of like weird things that come out from him. So I don't know, by having this necessarily means that the character is able to fly. Is it going to be a design aspect? I don't know. But the fact that he's kind of like off the ground at the moment and they've got these things here, these wings, well, they're not really amazing wings. I don't know, I've got this theory that he's going to be hovering off the ground when he's implemented into the game, but be exciting to see. I think for a lot of players, they're going to be looking at this character as the big offensive champion for June, the same way they looked at May and Cull Obsidian was the big damage output for June. Sue Storm very much looks like an amazing defensive based character, and I really like to see these two characters when they get into the game. Going up against them is probably going to be a little bit tough, especially if against Sue Storm, I kind of think, but Namor may be a little bit better to go up against. But however, like I said, if you've got an Omega Red against Sue Storm, that could be a really positive thing. It also looks like you'll have to avoid Imperious Rex. Having a debuff effect on you is going to be good. You need a debuff effect on you in order to stop Imperious Rex generating, because let's face it, special after special after special is going to give you no time to get up and is going to make you completely frustrated with the game and the developer. So I think that champions off of the L1 that do some sort of power lock or power drain, I think you're going to find great value next month in your Visions, Vision Age of Ultron, Hawkeye, as long as it's not classed as advantage, but still is a good character, Psylocke, etc, etc. Champions that off the L1 are able to power lock or power burn very, very quickly. I think they're going to be great characters to use. There we have it. That has been a video on these two new characters. Cheers to Kabam for sending through the information on these two. You didn't have to, as you know, I know that it's been leaked out by other sources, but still it's great to have those PNG images and other bits as well, a little kind of deep dive into the ability. So thanks for that. In any case, what are your thoughts on these two characters? Put it in the links. So there we have it. That has been a video on these two new characters coming in next month. What do you think of them? Put them in the comment section below. Is anyone standing out for you for whatever reason? And as well, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content on Marvel Contest of Champions. Make sure post notifications on, please, please, please. So when my videos come out, you actually get to see them. But in any case, thanks everybody, and I shall catch you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.